All right. Welcome to another episode of Talking Ball with Pat Leonard. Have another great guest for us here to talk NFL and all things free agency heading into the NFL owners meetings, NFL draft season and beyond. First, just want to tell you real quick about Bet Online, which remains your number one source of all your college basketball betting this season. Get analysis of every play, prop, and point at Bet Online. You'll find the latest odds, bracket contests, team matchups, and game trends at Bet Online. Updated odds for everything from live games, conference championships, right through to the Final Four and championship game. Bet Online is your college basketball headquarters this season. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to sign up and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Be sure to use our promo code BLEAV, that's all caps, BLEAV, to receive your bonus. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. And where we start, we're bringing back a guest who, frankly, when we had Josina Anderson on last time, the analytics, Josina, I don't know if I told you this, but for the audio listens, for the video watches and views, they were through the roof compared to what else we were doing in the fall in our first season of this podcast. Not a surprise because of the information and insight you bring us, but it is Josina Anderson, senior NFL insider for CBS Sports. Welcome. Thanks for coming back.
I appreciate that. And for all sponsors listening, you want to give me a call with respect to those analytics. I'm always taking in other sponsors and money. So just hit up the email address on my Twitter and somebody will get back to you.
That's right. That's right. Josina, one of the hardest workers in this business, obviously has her own show, Rockin' the Crew. I don't know when she takes off. I don't know if she takes off, but super plugged in, as we know, to the NFL world on all angles. But we know, of course, there's a big name, Josina, right off the bat when we talk about New York football, somebody still out there in free agency who used to play for the Giants, supposedly is on a wish list for Aaron Rodgers if he ever comes to the Jets, and has other suitors out there as well, and is still biding his time making a decision. He is Odell Beckham Jr. And I put it to you, somebody who has a relationship and who has always been plugged into the free agency scene and to Odell's world and to his stardom. I just want to know directly from you, where do you see this at this moment with OBJ? And where do you see it going as he makes a decision here in free agency?
Well, couple things. One, I feel like I do know specifically where it's at. But at the same time, I do have to, be mindful of my, rapport with respect to, on and off the record conversations.
Hmm.
What I will say is this, obviously, Odell Beckham Jr. is coming off of, a great workout that he had at ASU. One of the things that I think was really good about what he did there is that he looked more sure footed in his cuts and in his change of directions, as far as just how he mentally the certitude with that. So I thought that was good. And as far as like all of the teams that showed up and came out and did that, I thought that was good, especially when you think about just the last time that he's been on the field, which was en route to, I think, winning the MVP award, playing against the Bengals in 2 Super Bowls ago. So you have that. I think, for me, what I know is kind of the main focus for Odell, obviously, is getting back on the field. That's his sanctuary. It's everything that he's putting his focus on as far as his life. That is his main focus, is just, reclaiming his life on the field. And with that being said, I think that one of the priorities for him is who he is playing for, as far as the quarterback situation. I think, the quarterback is a big thing, for him, and being able to, as a free agent, make a decision as to who you want to play for. And obviously there are a number of teams that, have good quarterbacks. Now, what's interesting about, where he is right now with his decision, and I always say this to people as I've watched, and you and I talked about this, Pat, because you're like, you have been quiet on social media with respect to Odell, and
You
I
have.
have. I haven't been speaking up about it as much because I just kind of watch what people say, and also because I know how fluid things can be. I mean, we just finished talking about this on my podcast with with respect to, just the Elijah Moore situation. And even in using Odell as an example, I mean, when he was in his uh, free unexpected free agency a couple years ago, I mean, if you had asked me on the day that he chose that he was going to the Rams where he was going, I would have said Packers all day. And I think I've talked to you about this before. And then,
Mm,
Jalen Ramsey called, Von Miller called, and he felt the love and he went to the Rams. And it wasn't compared to, just the amount of love. Not saying it wasn't getting any from Green Bay, but just the amount of energy that he was receiving, from the Rams. So that, that played a part. And there are teams, that are still in his ear with respect to, making considerations. And,
mm,
part of that is just the money aspect too. And just how important it is, not just for him, but for anybody to just feel valued. I mean, and it's very hard, for me to not say I don't understand that when I feel like, I've experienced that too. You know what I'm saying? Or many of us could probably, say where we've experienced that over the arc of our careers.
for sure.
So, when and every athlete reacts differently. Some, get paid their value and they want to prove it even more. Like I just saw some video from Daniel Jones that was out on Twitter of him working out in the bubble, and he was looking all jazzed up, and I think he genuinely looks geeked, to really show that he deserves that and he is that guy and he has that innate intrinsic motivation. And then there's some athletes who get paid and they're like, I got my bag, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like,
It's a good point.
whatever. So, and but I do feel like Odell is a player who and he's not unique in that sense, who likes to feel, valued. And as I hear certain people in my head of conversations that I have, well, he has to realize it's coming off two ACLs, it's not the same, and da 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 da. And no one's not naive to that, but as somebody who has seen the entire workout that he had at ASU, and I have seen the entire workout, as someone
Mm,
who has seen all of the video clips, at least that he makes available to me to see as far as his progress, I do think that I'm not just talking from like, oh no, whatever, like it's from insight of things that I've seen and things that I've heard and the amount of work that he's put in to get back at to this level. And as you and I said, like, ex player Pat Leonard could come in and be the wide receiver for the Giants and you could get hurt week 2.
yeah, right,
And
right.
Odell could go the entire season and not get hurt. So to put a button on this, yes, he is having, discussions. He's, figuring it out. And we'll see how, quickly that moves. It could always accelerate. It could still take some time. I don't want to give too much other, details beyond that, but that's just
Mm.
kind of, where it is. And just stay tuned to my timeline.
That's valuable insight. We will stay tuned to your timeline. One more OBJ question
hmm
before we move
hmm
on. You mentioned wanting to feel valued and to show a person, show Odell that they value him. And right now, I know there's other teams involved, but I just want to know the New York Giants, they have Saquon Barkley, Sterling Shepard, who have openly recruited Odell publicly, privately, who show him we want you here. I know Daniel Jones is intrigued about the possibility of playing with Odell Beckham, who would not be. Obviously Daniel got here after Odell was gone, so he never got a chance to throw to this dynamic, great wide receiver. Then you have in the Jets, Aaron Rodgers wants Odell Beckham. Then you have with the Buffalo Bills, Von Miller and Odell. No secret they are close friends, that they would love to play together again. So I ask you, do you feel that there's any stronger pull of desire to make a player feel wanted between the Giants dynamic, the Jets dynamic, and the Bills dynamic? Again, I know it's a larger group of teams that he's considering talking to, but do you feel like there's any stronger pull from one of those teams or one of those relationships that could make Odell feel wanted and put it over the top, if that makes sense?
Um, Currently, I mean, I feel like he has his leanings, yes. I definitely do feel like he has his leanings, but that doesn't mean that, somebody can't continue to, get in his ear, because I've seen it happen a couple years ago, and
Got it.
so that's why I really just kinda take my time with him, when even we're talking about it, and it's like, "Yeah, let me know when it's final, 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 final."
So that's why you
Because
brought
there
up
was
the
a couple
Packers
times it was
Rams.
final
Yeah.
and one final, and I want to make sure it's final. I mean, listen, there are great options out there. I mean, if you're thinking about, the Chiefs, the Chiefs could be, a great option. The
Hmm.
49ers, and going up there and spreading it out with Debo Samuel could be,
Ooh.
really good. I mean, obviously, the Ravens are, still interested, and making that known, I feel like, and it would be very attractive in terms of helping to resolve the Lamar thing still. And then obviously Von Miller is going to stay in his ear, with regards to Buffalo. And I still feel the question is, how would that synergy work, with him and Stephon and things like that. I would just be curious, just in general. But I feel like his relationship with, Vaughn is always going to just keep that door open as far as the communication. And so you just have to kind of respect, pay respect to that. Do I think he has his current leanings? Yes. But at the same time, I still think those leanings are, pending, certain things.
Hmm.
And those certain things could, be massaged, or changed based on other conversations that can always happen at any moment, So that's why I just kind
Yep.
of leave it like that. And
Love it.
so, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But either way, what I do know is that, he's very, very passionate about football. He's very passionate, and I feel like he's just the type of player that is gonna do the necessary work on his own, and has that work ethic. Not only that, because remember, when you're a free agent and you're not with the team and you're injured, you're footing that bill financially.
Hmm.
You're footing that bill. So he is footing that bill for himself. But I do feel so, he has a work ethic with that. But what I'm saying is, once a team is infused, um, into him, as far as, really making him feel a certain way, I feel like X team really gets the return benefit from that. And I feel like just the Rams were a really good example of that. Sean McVay is really good at making the players feel loved, and really good at offensively keeping them, kind of titillated as far as the things that they could, he could do with them, as far as game calling and game planning, and he responds off of that. And so, I just feel like I'm so curious. And I know we're going to transition to Lamar, as
Hmm.
to all of these teams that said, oh, they're out on Lamar, how they're going to do. Cause my memory is really deep, Pat. My memory's really deep. And so I'm going to be there to have these conversations at the end of the season, much like I'll be interested to have these conversations, with some of the people that, won't put up in the way I'm sure Odell feels like that they should.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. The league is more exciting with Odell Beckham Jr. in it, and also, in my opinion, in a big market. And for sure, at his peak, at his top value, he is worth a lot to a team on the field and off the field. So we'll be looking forward to seeing how that develops. You mentioned Lamar Jackson. I'm glad we can segue into that.
Mhm.
Just tell us where it stands, because it's been such an unusual situation. Rarely do we see a young former MVP come available in this way, Josina. And then we never see teams announcing that they're out on a player who would instantly turn them into a contender. So, where are we with Lamar? Why is there not more of a market? Is there more of a market, but it's behind the scenes and beneath some layers? Where does it stand?
So I'm not aware of anything currently active, for Lamar with respect to an outside team. I do think that the Ravens remain interested. I think that they keep in contact and keep tabs. I
Hmm.
do think that there's a little bit more to the situation that's going on to that. Um,
Hmm.
I'm just not gonna get into. And the reason why I say that is just because, not everything is, on the record, and you just have to, sometimes there's just a time to hold things, and there's a time to fold things. And on top of that, very transparently, I have very strong respect for Lamar,
Hmm.
and his playing ability, and just, who I feel like he is, even though we don't talk, often. Obviously, when I see him in person, I feel like we exchange that mutual respect. He's very private, and I respect. That's just the way that he wants to handle it. And whether people agree with how he's handling or not, it's his decision ultimately. I know that he's getting, a lot of advice, and he takes that advice in. And then as a man, it's up to him to decide. Obviously, he's not going to recoup the money that he would have had if he had that multi-year done. In years before, you can't go back and recoup that money. But on the same flip side of that, he was okay with that. And that's his decision. It might not have been what we would have done, but
Hmm.
that's his decision. And so can't be up in arms about somebody else's money or somebody else's pocket if that's what they're cool with.
Yeah, no, for sure. And why do you think? Why are we hearing whenever we get a leak on this Lamar situation, and there haven't
Mhm.
been a ton because, as you said, he's private. Um, how come all the leaks that come out seem to be coming from the team side? We're not interested. The league side. Oh, Ken Francis, a person named Ken Francis is contacting teams, and he's not a certified agent with the players union, but he's calling teams trying to negotiate with Lamar. Then you have Lamar having to come out on Twitter and say,
Allegedly, because Ken Francis did say to ESPN that he didn't place those calls. And
and
I
then Lamar
go ahead.
said that person's not calling and negotiating. So why are we seeing these, for lack of a better term, anti Lamar leaks?
Um, I think they vary from team to team. So
Mm,
number one, I think like if you start with the Carolina Panthers, it is true that I heard during the combine that they are going for a younger player. So with the Panthers, I can honestly say that, that is something that I heard, in Indianapolis and before Indianapolis. And I think that that was their mindset. We can
mm,
talk about whether I think that should be the case or not. Me, I tend to be more in the less need, philosophy of things as far as how I feel like I would handle things as a GM. I want to go with what I know as opposed to what may or may not become. That's what I want to invest in because I feel like I can sleep better at night, and and with whatever. And
agree.
remember, the other part of some of these quarterbacks that all these teams are going out and evaluating at these pro days is, I don't think a lot of these evaluators are really good at discerning people. And at some point, who knows, I may go on the other side and consider going into the management side of things or whatever. Maybe at some point I will do that.
Ooh, that's a
But
tease.
I don't feel like they are.
I'm marking that timestamp down. That's
There
an
you go.
interesting comment right there. Yeah.
I don't feel like. I think discernment is a skill, and I think it does kind of play into who I feel like I've become as an insider in terms of being able to read people. I just think you either have it or you don't.
Yeah.
And and so what I mean by that is that some of these players can have the greatest arm and they have the greatest pro day and they look good on the college level, and I just think the NFL is a completely different level. And what I'm looking for is, can I have looked at a Richard Sherman at Indy and be able to tell that he was going to be a dog even though he was picked in the 5th round? Can I look at a Tom Brady and not miss that he was going to be who that he was going to be after having a conversation, because I'm able to detect the signs of inner fire? And
Right.
so, do you have inner fire? And also, does your blood drop like that? Excuse me, does your blood pressure drop like that guard at for Kansas State at the Garden last night, who just went off because he just has that? He just has it. And do you have
Hmm.
the radar for that? And so, this guy might be great, everybody, but is he more Sam Darnold or is he more Josh Allen? Is he more Tom Brady or is he more Baker Mayfield? And so you kind of have to be able to figure that out. So what I'm saying is, to get back on track, is that I know that Lamar is. I know that Lamar
He has that.
is.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hear about the cost and, oh, that's why with the Commanders, we're going with Sam Howell. It's cheaper. And that's how the Eagles did it, because they're building around. They were able to do it because he's cheaper now and all that other stuff. But at some point, a franchise quarterback is going to cost what a franchise quarterback costs. And that's what it is. And you have to figure it out.
Yep. One more on Lamar. And well, it's kind of a double barrel question.
Mm-hmm.
What team do you think he ends up on come September? And then the other question is, and this will lead into our next topic, is do you think the Jets should be calling Lamar Jackson, should be pursuing him at the stage where Aaron Rodgers has said that he intends to play for them, but there's a standstill there? So I guess that's my kind of twofold question is, should the Jets be making that phone call? And then the second one is, when all said and done, who do you think Lamar will be playing for this season?
So I can't really fault the Jets for pursuing Aaron, especially with Nathaniel Hackett and all that other stuff. I still think Aaron does have it, and I definitely understand it. I don't think Aaron is the better long-term plan in comparison to Lamar, but I certainly understand getting him and how one could possibly think that maybe you could do both. That you could have Aaron, if Aaron has told you in those meetings at his house in California that he is at least thinking that he'll give you 2 years, and Lamar plays on a tag, at least next year, maybe you have the opportunity to, get
Ooh.
Lamar again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The question is, would you do it now? As opposed to waiting? Is someone who's in their 20s as opposed to someone who's getting ready to be in their 40s? I mean, I,
Exactly.
I mean, again, I think that, like I said, I can't. It's a hard question because I can't fault the Jets, but I obviously feel the better long term plan is Lamar.
Mm.
Now, as far as where I think Lamar will be, I would say the Baltimore Ravens. As far as where the current market stands, if the sale for the Washington Commanders were to happen sooner, I think that he would have a very strong chance of going to the Washington Commanders, especially
Juicy.
with Magic Johnson being a part of, if assuming the Josh Harris group it becomes owner, and with Magic Johnson there, I just don't see how, knowing the relationships that I know that Magic Johnson has, that indirectly connect to indirect things. I don't see how those conversations wouldn't happen. At least trying to explore that would be my thought. So that's what I think now, and I think that beyond the reason why I just even put the Commanders out there is when I think about Lamar's personality and his vibe, I think that he works in the DMV. I just think that that's outside of Florida. I think his brand works in the DMV. So that's where I think it. And people are, oh well, the Ravens wouldn't ship him. If the Commanders give the price, I think that they would. I think that people are human and everyone has their patience levels on both sides. This is dragged out for a long time and it's emotional. I think I can tell that by just the various people that I've talked to. It's an emotional situation, and even in those conversations, I would say that I try to remind people that I'm talking about. Don't make this more complicated than it is. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
No, seriously. I do say this. I'm like, don't make it more complicated than it is. At some point, this will arrive to a deadline, and deadline spur action. And at that point, you're either going to sit on the pot or get off. What is it? Piss in the pot or get off the pot. You know what I'm trying to say. You're going to do. You're going to be on the pot and piss, or you're not going to be on the pot and piss. And you're going to have to either go left or right. And so when that time comes, you're going to make a decision. So if the market remains the way that it is, you're either going to grab that 32 mil. Now, obviously, I think that they should do right by him and not just be paying him the 32 mil. I don't think that Daniel Jones and Kyler Murray and all these people should be making more money than Lamar in 2023. So just because you can do that, because that's what the tag stipulates, doesn't mean that I think you should do that, because it goes back to our conversation about mentality. What's going to be racking between both of his ears as he's playing for you all season? take
Mm.
care of that homeostasis, take care of that mental equilibrium, so
Homeostasis.
that it gives you that reciprocity, huh?
Yeah. No, yeah, you're dropping knowledge and big vocab on the listeners. I love it.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, no, I hear
But
you
that's
though.
what I feel. And then don't get me wrong, I mean, I have a long podcast about this on my timeline now about Atlanta. Again, I have all respect for all individuals, and I get the build out plan and build slowly, and you got to get the other pieces and build up the trenches and all that other stuff. But I'm sorry, Atlanta is just, to me, that is just too easy of a fit. You get the quarterback first and do it the
Yeah.
other way around. Not the other way around and then hoping you get the quarterback. That's just not the way I would do it. I'm sorry. And if it means that, yes, you had to lose out on acquiring a Jesse Bates and all that other stuff, then yeah, that's what you do, because you have the guy that touches the ball every possession on offense. That's why.
Yeah,
That's what I
that's right. You jogged my memory on something. I wasn't planning on asking about this player, but I mean, and if we're not if there's nothing current on it, we don't have to get into it. But when you mentioned Lamar, other than Miami being or in Florida being a great fit in the DMV, it brought me back to my kind of jaw on the floor. Like, the Dolphins aren't really going to run it back with Tua here, are they? And I remember back at the combine, you were the one ahead of everybody reporting that they were going to discuss all options when it came to their quarterback
not
situation.
were did. Absolutely
Did.
1000% did.
So my right. So
Yeah.
my question is, are they going to, at this point, after picking up his fifth year option, are they going into this season with him as their starter, or is there still a chance that Tom Brady, could be the guy, as they tampered to try to get happen in years past, or that Lamar Jackson could enter the picture in a trade there?
Okay, so I understand your question, and I really feel
Yeah.
like your question comes from, a lot of the people in the Dolphins, that cover the Dolphins or locally in that area, spinning what it is I said and I didn't say.
Mm,
Obviously, if Tua is going to be there, he's going to be the starter. Full stop.
okay.
So if Tua's there, he's going to be, the starter. The question is, or the point of the matter is, the team did their due diligence. They gathered information internally to do their due diligence, and they should do their due diligence. Not only because the job requires due diligence, but on top of that, you have the extra added piece of Tua's history, which just is what it is. It doesn't
Yeah.
take away that I love Tua as a player. I think he made market progress, and the stats show that from, his career year in terms of touchdowns and interceptions or passing yards and leading the league and, passer rating and all that other stuff, whatever it was, that is not necessarily on the top of my head right now because it's been a while since we talked about it.
Yeah.
But my point is that knowing his history, you had to discuss the Aaron Rodgers, you had to discuss Lamar, and you had to get the opinions on that. And I think that there are quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes or whoever who have, gotten their deals after being in the league 3 years. And when you do the 5th year option is not a long term deal. And I was
Right.
I can't even say I was surprised, because I know how it is in our media business, right? But just like, all of the people that were just, jumping on the cosign train for their relationships,
Right.
just,
I'm with you.
this is a big show of confidence. And it is a show of confidence from his football standpoint, because he deserves that. Matter of fact, he deserves it, in my opinion, based off of just how this stuff was handled with his concussions last year. There's a
Thanks for
lot of things
yeah.
that they could be leveraged, for that I feel like he deserves. And he is phenomenally accurate. And he is all of these things, right? But at the same time, long-term deal is not a long-term deal. And
Josina,
and
as you
make
know,
no
people.
mistake that Tua was searching for a long-term deal. Make no
Mm,
mistake that also, um, that he switched representation right before this decision was made. And there's even more to that I'm not going to get into that.
mm.
I don't tweet about everything I know and don't know. You see what I'm saying?
I
So
do. And as you know, unfortunately, people don't want to live in the real world, which is a world of nuance, and a world where, often in the NFL, I've encountered this as well, where conversations happen entertaining hypotheticals, entertaining trade conversations, entertaining replacing players that never come to pass in reality for one reason or another. It doesn't make it not true. In fact, if
Oh,
as
I
to your
mean, we don't
point,
even have, it's not even worth the breath to explain.
right,
Explore
exactly,
means explore. And
right. No, no question.
all of a sudden, it just got taken into this whole other thing, which I
Yeah.
never said as far as, well, Tua's definitely going to be the starter. But I never didn't say it was not going to be the starter. No, seriously,
I
like
know, I know. I'm
that mess
laughing
gets
at
on that mess gets on. No, I know I'm not no, seriously at you. It's
yeah.
seriously what we're talking about. Like that like gets on my nerves. Is like, listen, if one thing that you know about me is that, especially if I see it, I give credit to everybody. That's never
Yes.
not me. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, it's like, and at the same token, if I break something in somebody's market, let's not go all out of our way to, distort it and change it and do all the things that I didn't say that it was, simply because we're trying to mind our turf.
Yeah, right.
I mean, 9 times in that video did I say due diligence and exploring. And if you don't think conversations were had, then I like to, sell you, a beach in Vegas, like a real one. You know what I'm
Thank
saying?
Yes, I do, and thank you for clarifying.
Mhm.
Last question, I've taken up a lot of
Yeah.
your time here. I know
Yeah.
you're very busy. Just why isn't Aaron Rodgers done yet? Packers, the Jets. Will it get done soon? Where does that stand?
Um, because both sides are trying to maximize what both sides feel like they should have based on how they both perceive their leverage to be in this moment. I personally, I understand that you have to get everything that you can get, and you have to be careful of not giving up everything that you don't feel like you should give. But as I have said to free agents, and I've told you this, Pat, and as I say to the team, focus on moving forward and getting yourself in alignment. Every day that you collect good energy is a day that you need good energy to do what it is that you're going to do.
Yeah.
And every day that it's not resolved is another day that you're out of alignment. And I'm really, really big on that. And I'm not saying that because of that, just hand over for first and just, bend over right now and just do it. But what I'm saying is, if you know that X amount of compensation is just going to get it done and you're 75% okay with it, just get it done.
Hmm.
Just get it, just get it done and figure out a creative way to make up for it later. That's just move forward, because this whole angst of it, like, just think about all of the energy that can be harvested and galvanized inside of Florham Park right now, knowing that it's done, that you're missing every day. Think about what you would be doing. Your energy would be every day that it's not done. So to me, think about what you're gaining there as
Hmm.
opposed to what you're losing by a freaking pick. And I just don't value these picks the same way that some of these teams do. I value more known commodities and more mid-level veterans. That's what I value.
And Josina had a great conversation with Brian Costello from the Post on
Mhm.
her own podcast about this exact topic. And you bring up a point that I think Costello was talking about too. It's there are people maybe in the Jets organization, their jobs are obviously to maximize the value, to try not to give too much up, all those things. But when it comes down to it, owner Woody Johnson could end up being the voice that brings the reason that you are bringing to this conversation right now, which is how many years are we going to get out of Aaron? Let's say it's 2. Do we want to wait until after the draft, until we drag into the summertime, until whatever the case may be? Do we want to wait even till late April to get a guy in who's only going to be here for 24 months, possibly, and try and hit the ground running without a longer runway to develop the relationships, the chemistry, the rapport, and the situation that you're hoping is going to be a short-term shot in the arm to immediate success, right? So I think maybe the owner would be the one most likely that would share your viewpoint in the long run.
I mean, I just don't think you get into this whole machismo battle I just, this to me is where you benefit from having a female in the room. And if
Mm,
I were, vice president of the Jets, and if I were assistant GM, or if I were in that room, that's exactly what I would be saying. Move on. Just get it done. And then now you solidify that, you finish, everything out with your free agent, and just get to building and building positive vibes only, and all break no gas or whatever, you know what I'm saying, like go, and and I love that, and I'm not making fun of
no, I got
that,
it.
because
Yeah.
I love it. What I'm saying is that's what you should be building, is the titillation of that vibe, you see what I'm saying, and go ahead and get to harvesting, and drop your row in the soil, so to speak, and get to mining your field, because every day that you're not doing it is every day that the root is not that much deeper into the ground.
Mm,
And that's just the way I look at it. I look at things more from an energy standpoint. And it's the same thing I tell free agents that I talk to. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can haggle back and forth over this million and that million, or you can just get yourself in alignment and worry about how you can also get those millions elsewhere based off of your decision of where you're going to be anyways, right? And it doesn't mean that you aren't due, because certainly, trust me, I want all my money, like that damn meme, give me my money, you know what I'm saying? I want my money too, as far as what I deserve. But when you're at that point where you feel like, is it really going to get any better, or you're kind of wasting time in limbo? Who's to say what you creative ideas you would have had in those days that you were in limbo for monetizing yourself outside of football, that you were missing because you spent time trying to get an extra, half a mil or a mil and a half from X team.
It's a great point, Josina. Getting Rodgers done quickly gives the Jets more energy. You give my podcast tons of energy every time you come on, and insight and news. She is senior NFL insider for CBS Sports, Josina Anderson. Josina, thank you so much for making the time. Really appreciate it, as always.
That's right. You do make sure you drop that senior on there, Pat. You drop that senior.
Oh, I don't miss it. You know it.